It's my pleasure to introduce Anke Popper, Deputy Director of German Information Center, and to introduce Olga and also the interviewer, Matthew.
Thank you very much. Dear lovers of culture and of literature, thank you for coming here. It is a great pleasure for me to be here at the 2019 National Book Festival. As a bookworm myself, I have to admit, I find the concept of this festival really thrilling. It's a special honor to be also able to present one of Germany's most prominent and admired young authors today, Olga Grjasnova. We are especially pleased to be able to do so during the ongoing year of the German-American friendship, a major and year-long initiative, both online and offline, to explore the countless ways Germany and the United States are wunderbar together. And now to the author. Olga, originally from Baku, Azerbaijan, came with her family to Germany as a young teenager. Though not speaking a word of German at that time, she quickly learned the language and completed her secondary schooling in Frankfurt am Main. After first studying art and history and Slavic studies in Göttingen, she transferred to the German Institute for Literature in Leipzig. Just 2 years after graduating in 2010, after a series of prestigious fellowships and international studies in Poland, Russia, and Israel, she published her first novel, Der Russe ist einer, der Birken liebt, in 2012. Translated as All Russians Love Birch Trees, the novel dealt with themes of migration, displacement, grief, and isolation. Praised by critics in the German press, the novel won the prestigious Klaus Michael Kühne Award for a debut novel and the Anna Seghers Prize, and won Grjasnova extensive international attention. In addition to being translated into 15 languages, her breakout novel was also given a theatrical treatment by the Maxim Gorki Theater in Berlin, which is one of the most famous and prestigious theaters in Berlin. Olga's second novel, The juristische Unschärfe einer Ehe, published in 2014, is a fast-paced tale of a life triangle, fortune and misfortune, told in unabashedly direct prose. This novel also won several prizes, as the Adalbert von Camisso Prize of the Robert Bosch Stiftung, Robert Bosch Foundation, given to a work whose author's mother tongue is not German, and this is remarkable, actually. Olga's first 2 novels contain strong autobiographical elements, as well as echoes of real events. And her third novel, Gott ist nicht schüchtern, published in 2017, continues this trend in the context of the Syrian war and its consequences of it. The English translation about which we speak today, as The City of Jasmine, was released in March of this year. I'm sure we are all excited to hear more about Olga and about her novel and her experiences in the writing process. So we are very curious to have, we are happy to have Olga here today. Matthew Davis, welcome to you as well. You are the founding director of the Alan Chus International Writers Center at George Mason University. The Chus Center celebrates the art of creative writing as a means of international dialogue, education, and understanding. Given Mr. Davis' experience with cultural exchange and diplomacy in the literary context, I think we are in for a real treat this afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Thank you to Olga Grjasnova for joining us on the international stage today at the National Book Festival. The floor is yours.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you all of you for coming this afternoon, and thank you, Olga, for coming as well. We're going to start first with a reading. Olga's going to read first in German. I always think it's great to get a sense of the original language that the literature was produced in. And then I'm going to read the translated English. And then we will discuss a bit about this book, City of Jasmine, which is a book that takes place largely in the Syrian civil war and afterwards as some of the characters begin their really treacherous journey to Europe as refugees. But first, we'll begin with a brief reading. So, Olga, will you please read some in German?
Hello, and thank you so much for having me. It's a big pleasure. It's just the beginning of the book, and it's in German anyway, so I don't think I have to explain a lot. Am Morgen nach dem Fest, während das ganze Haus noch schläft, macht Hamoudi sich zur Stadtverwaltung auf, um endlich seinen Pass verlängern zu lassen. Die Sicherheitsmänner winken den Schlaftrunken durch. Die Flure sind eng, sie werden blassgelb gestrichen und mit einer grellgrünen Bordüre geschmückt. In einem stickigen Zimmer nimmt Hamoudi Platz und wartet, bis sein Name aufgerufen wird. Die Wartezimmer der Syrischen Republik haben viele Gemeinsamkeiten mit den Gefängnissen. Niemand weiß, wie lange und weshalb man in ihnen sitzen wird. Die Zeit ist auf Unbestimmtheit hinausgelegt. Sie dehnt sich aus oder verrinnt. Möglicherweise wird ein ganzer Tag verstreichen, möglicherweise nur eine halbe Stunde. Hamoudi versucht, allen möglichen Beschäftigungen nachzugehen, Handys, Spiele, E-Mails, ein vor Ewigkeiten angefangener Roman. Und doch ist sein Körper in permanenter Alarmbereitschaft, denn sein Name könnte jederzeit aufgerufen werden. Um 3:10 steht er wieder im Warteraum des Bürgeramtes. Diesmal wird er sofort in das Büro des Behördenleiters gerufen, der ihn streng anschaut und verkündet: Sie können Ihren Pass wieder haben, aber Sie dürfen das Land nicht verlassen. Wie bitte? Fragt Hamoudi. Der Sicherheitsdienst hat Bedenken, Sie wieder ausreisen zu lassen. Bitte wenden Sie sich an das zuständige Amt. Aber mir wurde in der syrischen Botschaft versichert, ich könne meinen Pass einfach verlängern lassen. Es sei eine große Sache. Wo war das? In Paris. Dann wenden Sie sich doch an die Kollegen in Paris. Aber dafür müsste ich erst ausreisen können. Ich werde nicht mit Ihnen diskutieren. Mit einem ausdruckslosen Gesicht öffnet der Beamte die nächste Akte. I just made a mistake. It's a slightly different part, but I think it's fine.
Which part would you?
It's fine.
It's fine.
Just not exactly the same.
Okay.
I just
This is
realized
maybe not the exact
this after,
section we've translated, but
but almost.
close enough. Hamoudi's family celebrates his arrival in Deir ez-Zor with a huge party. The courtyard is full of uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews, and nieces. He had forgotten how stressful a large family can be. The girls are wearing hairbands and frou-frou dresses, squealing as the boys chase them. Then they switch over, the boys running away and the girls pursuing them with even more squeals. A giant table is set up in the middle of the courtyard, straining under the weight of all the food and drink. Hamoudi's father has had a lamb slaughtered, stuffed with rice and nuts, and then slowly roasted over the fire in the yard. His mother instructed the staff to spend several days preparing salads and starters, marinating 7 kilos of kebab meat and various fish, stirring yogurt and setting out huge trays of baklava and shabayat pastries. Their game momentarily erupted. A crowd of children mobs Hamoudi as he hands out the gifts he brought from France. His aunts load generous portions for all the guests onto delicate porcelain plates that Hamoudi's mother imported from Japan. His grandparents have 7 daughters and not a single son, something his aunts and his grandfather in particular consider a great blessing. He sent all his daughters to university, and all 7 of them chose medicine. Now they work in different fields, but are still inseparable. Throughout his childhood summers, Hamoudi saw his aunts huddled together on the roof of their house, eating nuts and sweets as they gossiped about their neighbors. And now we're going to shift to a different passage. He's back in the waiting room by 10 to 4. This time, he's called straight into the department head's office, where the man gives him a stern look and announces, "You can have your passport back, but you're not allowed to leave the country." "Pardon?" Hamoudi responds. "The Secret Service has some concerns about letting you leave the country again. Please contact the relevant authority." "But the Syrian embassy assured me I could just get my passport renewed. It wasn't a big deal, they told me." "Where was that?" "In Paris." "Then go and see my colleagues in Paris. But I have to leave the country first. I'm not going to get into a discussion." His face devoid of expression, the civil servant flips open the next file. So you can tell a little bit just from that passage there that one of the characters, Hamoudi, the first section is one full of joy, happiness, his return to Syria after years in France. Then the end of that passage where his passport is given back to him, but he's not allowed to leave the country. And this comes at a time when Syria is just on the brink of the civil war that will have engulfed it for many years. And I think one of the questions that I really want to start with Olga is the decision to write this book and how you decided to write this book, then also the process by which you wrote this book.
Actually, I have to admit, when I actually first started to write my third book, I thought I'm writing a book about a restaurant. I thought it would be a very easy novel, and I was reading cooking books from A to Z without cooking everything out of it. And I was almost hired as an intern in a very high standard restaurant. And then I met my husband, who happened to be Syrian. And I always thought I know a little bit of the Arab world. It turned out I don't know anything. So I started to read, at least to cover my blackouts. And I was reading everything I could get. In 2013, there haven't been that much published in Germany, and I need to write down things in order just to think. I need to write also. And I started to take notes on everything, which is not unusual for me. And then slightly, of course, as a fiction writer, the notes turned out into half of a manuscript without me realizing it. And when I finally realized it, it was already too late, and I knew this will be a novel, maybe. And then I started to really do research. I've never been to Syria, but I spent 9 months in Turkey. I spent some time in Lebanon and in Greece. And of course, I did also a lot of interviews in Germany. And I spoke to people I know, I spoke to people I don't know, I speak to people from different political parties. I even spoke to members of the Al-Nusra Front. And then also I got a lot of materials. Friends of mine been working as journalists in Syria and also as documentary filmmakers, and they allowed me to use their archives, which was very important for me because I also needed the pictures. I needed to know how it looks like.
Right.
And then I tried to put it in a story.
Yeah, it's really that you did a wonderful job. I was telling Olga, I lived in Syria twice, and once latest right before the revolution began. And a lot of the details that she gives about the country from not having been there are remarkable. We've met Hamoudi in the reading. Another main character is a woman named Amal, and both of them, as you could tell from you can tell you're about to write a novel about a kitchen because the descriptions of food were amazing and made me very hungry. But you can tell that Hamoudi's family is from a wealthier background, as is your other main character, Amal. And I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about why you decided to have your two characters be from great privilege in Syria.
Actually, first I had even 5 characters, but then I figured out I cannot handle them. So there have been just 3 left, and one of them was German, and there was a very big fight with my editor. And in the end, she won, and we decided just to have 2 characters, which was also a very good decision, I have to admit. But it took me 1 year to accept it. And I'm still a little bit sad, but she was right. And then I just had these 2 characters left, and also it's not a Syrian novel, and it's also not an Arab novel. It's a very European novel, and it's written by an European for an European public. Actually, it's a very German book, to tell you the truth. It's based on the German exile literature because there's a great tradition in the literature of Anna Segers and Erich Maria Remarque. We have a lot of scenes which are actually taking place in the harbor, and the people are waiting for a boat to be shipped to America or to Brazil, to anywhere. And also during the last years, also this book's been they've been quoted quite a lot. And this also, my novel is actually standing on this ground, and I'm quoting a lot of these things. And of course also this we have also this image of the poor refugees in the media, which is just not true, or
Right.
mostly not true. And it's also within German society, it's a big discussion, German immigrant society, it's rather big discussion about migration and privilege, because we have a different groups of migrants in Germany, and most of them, some of them have a lot of privilege, some have others. And so for me, it was actually in all of my books, I'm just describing immigrants with a big privilege, because that is what I know from my background.
Yeah.
It would be
Is it-
strange to write about unprivileged immigrants and being so privileged myself.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because to get a little bit ahead in the novel, there's you do a really interesting job of sort of talking about the hierarchies of refugees in terms of when your characters are beginning to leave Syria and they land at, Lebanon and then Turkey and then, through Europe. There sort of seems to be this hierarchy of people who get to go to different places. Was that some of the stuff that you were researching, and when you went to these countries, to Greece, to Lebanon? I mean, was this something that you were told by the interviews that you conducted in Syria?
No, actually, I know this quite well from my own background.
Okay.
I came as an immigrant to Germany myself, and this is very well known to me.
Okay, can you speak more about that? Can you tell us a little bit about your experience as an immigrant into Germany?
I came '96 to Germany as a so-called German refugee, but basically we haven't been refugees. It was just easier to explain this to public why suddenly you have so many people coming from Soviet Union. For us it was quite an easy migration, because we've been able, we got the green card immediately, and there haven't been a lot of troubles. And now it starts, of course, nowadays it's a way harder to migrate to Germany. And also, not also to migrate to Germany, actually. Germany is still one of the few countries you can actually enter. I mean, it's, for example, it's much more interesting to see on the policy of Great Britain to whom they are giving visas and to whom not.
Yeah, yeah. The book, the passage that Olga read and I read in English is at the very beginning of the book, but almost right away you're sort of jump into the demonstrations that are happening in Syria that leads to the violence that happens in Syria, that then leads to your characters beginning to leave Syria. And all of the tense for the book is all present tense. There's very little in terms of past tense. Why did you decide to set and to use the present tense for this novel?
Because actually I changed from the past tense to the present tense in the middle of the writing process. When there's a scene which is taking place in the sea, and the two main protagonists, they're very close to death, and I haven't been sure for quite a long time when they're actually dying.
Okay.
One of them was supposed to die in this scene, and but they still survived. And in this scene, I needed the present tense, otherwise it wouldn't have worked. So I changed everything else, and then I actually also noticed that it works better for this kind of novel.
Interesting. And what about the decision there's not a whole lot of backstory for these characters. The characters are sort of, they're there and here they are. I mean, you get a sense of their backgrounds from the descriptions, and there's not, a lot of it is just, here they are, and you just sort of roll with them and move with them throughout the course of several years. Was that something that you had decided to do consciously, or were parts edited out as you sort of moved along?
I think it's more an unconscious decision. There is also some backstory.
Yeah.
And I was trying to give, but it's also complicated because there are so many things going on in this story, and I have to explain the political relationships, the different parties in Syria, how it came, why the revolution started, plus to give a very big backstories to the characters. It would be slightly too much, or at least I had the feeling that it might be too much too quickly. So I tried to keep it still slim.
Right, great. Your characters, the two main characters, Amal and Hamoudi, both in their own different ways have a lot of cosmopolitan to them. I mean, Hamoudi lived in Paris, studied in Paris. He, at the time the novel begins, is dating a French Jewish woman, and Amal is sort of a clash of cultures for various reasons that become more evident as the novel unfolds. Yet towards the middle of the novel, towards the end, these characters are all really they're in some ways tragically defined by just who they are, who they seem to be. Was that sort of part of what you were trying to do with the book?
I think in general Syria is quite a multicultural society, but
Yeah.
sometimes don't even realize how multicultural it is, but you probably know it better than me. And also this intermarriage between a Russian and a Syrian, it turned out it's quite a cliche. There are so many marriages and there are so many bicultural parents and kids, and also there are a lot of them are in the cultural scene. And so for me it was also quite natural, and also it was easier for me to start from this point of this Russianness within the Arabic society, because my main protagonist, her mother is Russian, and she's studying in the academy for acting, where a lot of Russian teachers are actually teaching there as a professors.
Right.
And I used to study theater myself in Moscow, so it was quite close, and I knew exactly what they're speaking about, and I knew quite a lot about the mentality and this. So it made it easier, and I think it's always how it basically goes when you make this kind of migration, and when you flew towards something. First, of course, I don't think anybody's really having this clear image of himself as a refugee or as an American or Canadian or European, German, whatever. It's nothing. Like, I don't know anybody who's thinking the whole day about like I'm German, I will do this my German way. It doesn't happen. This mention of nationality, it comes from outside always.
Right.
But I don't think actually we're connected to it at all.
Interesting. So I think it was interesting to hear you say that this is not a book about Syria, but a book about Europe, and a book about the refugee crisis in particular. What has been, when did you start to write this book?
2013.
2013.
13, 14.
Okay, so we're now in 2019. This was published in 2017.
Yeah.
So what have you seen in terms of the changes of how Germany has responded to this influx of refugees, especially from Syria, since this is where the main characters come from?
Actually, it was this very strange development in Germany. On one hand, there was a very big wave of hospitality, and Germany is usually not the most, not necessarily a country which is known for its hospitality, but there have been suddenly 6 million of people who are engaging themselves and who are doing a lot of volunteer work, and these numbers are still the same. I look them up regularly. We still have 6 million of people in Germany taking care of refugees, helping. We have a population of 80 million, and 6 million of this population are engaging. It's a lot.
Right.
It's a lot. But first, also the whole media reports in Germany were very positive, and then on a certain point it changed. I don't know quite actually what happened in the media and what happened in this I can't even call it the public opinion, because I don't have the feeling it's actually the public opinion. It's just in the media they had this change of the shift, and I'm not sure where the shift comes from. It's quite a mystery for me now, and now it's shifting again. I think now it starts to be better. Also, we had the uprising of a very big nationalistic party, the Alternative for Germany.
Right.
They are now in the parliament, and it's the first time since the Second World War we have a party like this in the parliament. And also, I think it's a development which came along with the social media. Like, there was quite a big taboo in Germany on what you can say in public and what you just shouldn't say. And this also changed. Now the people feel more, they're not afraid anymore.
Right.
They think that's their public opinion and they can say whatever they want, and it's just their right to be racist. And this is a problem.
Yeah.
Now suddenly it became almost a civil right on racism.
Well, it's interesting because in some ways, your characters go through different European countries, and the responses from those European countries vary and impacts their lives in different ways. And as an American, I mean, there's towards the end of the book, there's sort of something you write that says she'd be an American, not a refugee. And I sort of read that passage, very sad, because our refugee policy in the United States is horrible. It's much worse than it is in Germany.
It is, But it was also published 2017.
Right.
It was.
Yeah, and times change very, very quickly. I want to ask one more question, then I'm going to...
Sorry. No, just a second. Also,
Yeah.
I mean, what's also interesting, what actually is also very sad for me, this book was also written and published before actually before Russia got involved in the war, which I think if I would have taken 1 more year to write it, then it would be also a total different book, especially with this half Russian character.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
This is like what actually.
Yeah, yeah. So there's 2 main characters, Amal and Hamoudi. And what's interesting about the book, and I wonder if this is how it was in previous drafts, is that they really meet only twice, and at both times are kind of crucial moments. But it's not like that they're sort of traveling this road together. Was this how you had thought about this in previous drafts, or was this something that when you cut out from 5 to 2 characters that sort of ended up being the situation?
No, I always knew that they're not going to meet, but this was also the expectation. I was playing with the expectation of a romantic novel, a romantic story. When you know you have a male and a female protagonist, on a certain point they are supposed to meet and to fall in love, and you just wait. Well, it happened. It happened.
Right.
And it was one of the biggest pleasures during writing this book, just not to give it.
Yeah.
Just to resist it. And it's of course you like when you have this expectation of a romance, but what kind of romantic love can happen after revolution or after war? I wouldn't call it a civil war, but after all this, the protagonist happens through how they're able to love each other.
Yeah.
And this was also one of the questions of during writing this book.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a great deal of humanity in this book. I mean, there's your descriptions of the horrific events that took place and are still taking place in Syria are very powerful. But yet, 2 things that come of that. One is that everyone in Syria is touched by this. Even if you don't want to be, you are. And the second thing is that regardless of what's going on there, there's still a great deal of humanity. People fall in love. People, have conflicts with their fathers, with their brothers. That's a key element to this. I think that is really important and well done in the novel. What did your husband think of this?
He didn't read it yet.
He hasn't read it yet?
No.
Why not?
I think it's better for our relationship.
All right. Fair enough. I want to invite the audience to
I mean, we
ask
have 2
some
small
questions.
kids, we can't afford a divorce.
What's that?
We have 2 small kids, we can't afford a divorce.
All right. Well, do people have questions they would like to ask Olga, either about her book or about the refugee crisis taking place in Germany right now?
I'm just curious if you had input in the translation of the titles of your books, especially this one, because it is quite different from the German title.
I'm not quite sure the titles are.
The title of your
the
books,
title, yeah,
do you have
sorry.
input in the translation of the titles? Because sometimes
Yeah.
they're similar. In the case of your first book, it's similar. In this case,
Yeah.
it's not at all.
Yeah, it's true. No, we tried to find, like, me and my publishing house, we've been actually trying to find together a new title for this book. The British publishing house, they thought God is Not Shy sounds quite odd in English, and I have to admit it does. It also sounds quite odd in Germany, but we've been running out of time. When the book was published, we had just 15 hours left to find a title, so we ended up with this one. It's because
What is the direct translation from German to English?
God is not shy.
God is not shy.
It's a chapter from the Quran.
Huh.
But yeah, and so they actually. But in the English when the English translation was supposed to come out, they gave me 3 months to find a new title, and I wasn't able to. And I did. So luckily they found this one, and I said okay. Sorry.
Well, that's interesting because City of Jasmine sort of echoes Damascus in many ways. And then
But they said it doesn't matter.
The city doesn't matter.
They say it, as a publisher say it doesn't matter. But it's a very good publisher, I've also heard of it.
The title doesn't matter? Is that what
Yeah.
That's how do you feel about that?
I mean, what can I say?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because to hear you talk about how this is not a Syrian novel but a German or European novel, to have the title refer to a Syrian city just as it's.
But it's very complicated with the titles because basically it just has to sound good. It doesn't really necessarily have to be attached to the book. And you need to find a title, like also title for the song. It should be just something very, very fast and something people will remember.
Yeah.
And I spent 3 years in finding one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I failed.
Not at all. Go ahead.
Hi. In listening to all of you, to both of you, it so often thematically, if we haven't read the novel yet, that we discuss things in a political way, for example, in this novel, or ideas. So I'm curious, actually, of the ideas you both have been discussing, are there passages in your novel that you would read to us? Because ultimately, it's the tenderness of words that bring the ideas out, and I would love to hear more of them from you. Passages that are your favorite or that speak to the questions he's asked you. I feel I've stumped you.
Are there passages in the novel that eloquently say through words what we're talking about in terms of ideas, in terms of the refugee situation? And I mean, there are many. I think is the short answer. To find them now, I think would be a little bit difficult.
Sure, but I just thought maybe if you knew, if there was something that you like, I know that on page 269, that's the part I really wanted to say.
No, it's also a very tricky question because this translation into English, which is wonderful, but it was made by Kitty Derbyshire, but it's not my text anymore. Mm-hmm. It's a total new book. Mm-hmm. I think it took me also 5 years to talk Katie into being translate me. But it's a total own book on herself, and she made a lot of decisions by herself, which I think are absolutely right. But it's nothing which I basically wrote anymore. It's still, and I think this is also what makes a wonderful translation. But in Germany, in the German original, I made a lot of decisions also regarding the language. And for example, in German, it's a language which is without any. I don't use a lot of metaphors. It's not necessarily a poetic language because also this follows the German philosophy and the idea of Adorno, who says that there's no poetry after Auschwitz. And I was also looking a lot into the German literature about the Second World War, about memories. Also, I don't want to compare the Holocaust to the Syrian Revolution, but I thought it's also necessary for me to take a language which is very poor and which is also quite a lot of scenes where I describe violence, and how can I describe violence? And I thought I will just make it as straight as I can, without any decor, without any decorations, just to also not to give the reader the possibility to hide behind a very beautifully or poetic language.
Thank you.
And I think that comes across in the English as well. There's the description. It's a very lyrical novel in many ways. The descriptions are beautiful. It's very much in English. There's no metaphor in English as well. I mean, it's very descriptive in terms of both the violence, but also the love and the human side of this as well.
Hi. I teach at George Mason too, so hello.
Hi.
I'd like to sort of ask you to expand a little bit more about your statement, the welcoming nature of Germany or Germans, because I think post World War II, there were, the Turkish guest workers. I know it's different context, but and Germany accepted, I believe, 1.2 million refugees. So, it struck me a little bit. It struck me that you made that statement because it might not have been perfect how they've dealt with things, but in terms of the welcoming nature of a people that have, struggled and have had some serious challenges, again, post World War II. And then I'd like to know about your writing regimen. What is your process, if you will, in terms of writing?
Thank you very much for the question. Well, the way how the guest worker has been treated in Germany wasn't really nicely. And also this term itself, guest workers, it's quite complicated. I mean,
Sure.
you don't make your guests work. And which is also quite interesting that also these terms, for example, Gastarbeiter, the original one, it's now used in Russia, in Russian also officially for guest workers who are really actually basically abused. And also in Germany, we had a very difficult relationship towards the guest workers, from the guest workers themselves to the society, and it's only now that we actually discuss a lot of things which needed to be discussed earlier. And also we had also a lot of people from actually we had almost 4 million people coming from the former Soviet Union to Germany, but this is part of immigration we rarely talk about because of people being white and you can't see them. There's also a huge Polish immigrant community in Germany, but also we don't talk about the Polish immigrants because, again, they're white. Oh. And there are a lot of topics in the German society which aren't discussed that much. And for example, also there was a big right-wing movement, a terrorist movement, and they killed people. They killed Turkish migrant workers and a Greek one, and also a German cop. And they've been murdering people for 10 years, and when actually it was discovered, and this whole, it all came to the media, it was called the shawarma murders by the official media. And this is also, it's not nice if people are killed and you just still don't even call them people, you don't call them humans, but you call them shawarma, it says a lot about the relationship.
What is shawarma?
Shawarma, it's
I don't speak German.
Yeah, it's sorry. No, sorry, I thought it's English. My mistake. It's falafel.
Falafel?
Like something like falafel, but
shawarma.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
shawarma. Oh, sorry. Okay, I know that.
Yeah, and so it's complicated. Okay. And so it was a huge surprise. And actually, when we had when the refugees and the Syrian refugees came, right, it was a very big surprise for everybody that they've been welcomed so muchly. And it's actually also. Suddenly it looked like we are living in a totally different country than the one we knew. Mm-hmm. And also I think actually this actually changed the country a lot. Okay. But I wouldn't say that it changed the country into a bad direction, like it's said a lot of time. I actually thought it was a very positive development for Germany.
Thank you. Thank you.
And my writing process is quite easy whenever I have daycare for the children.
Okay.
Whenever you have daycare, is that what you said?
Thank you.
That's great.
As a reader, I was quite invested in the journey and the struggles of your two main characters. So I'm wondering how you came to the ending of the story for each of the characters.
It was difficult to find one. I was very sure about Hamoudi. I knew he has to die, but I wasn't sure when. And I wanted to kill him a couple of times before, but he made it till the end of the novel, more or less. And when I decided that he has 4 months more to live than I was actually willing to give him, then I had also to change my ending for Amal. And but it took me a long time to find this ending, because I was actually dealing more with the ending of Hamoudi and the exact point of the exact timing of his death. Yeah. So his death also made the ending for Amal, and then it was trying to collect it. Then it still looks like a novel.
Hello, good afternoon. I've always been intrigued by writers who write not in their native language. And can you talk a little bit about the special challenges or pleasures or whatever of, again, German, I guess, is an acquired language for you, right?
No, actually, by now I would say it's my, I don't know how it's in English, but in Germany it's a very, it's complicated with what is actually native language and which is not. And in when people are studying simultaneous translation in Germany, they're using the term, it's straight, I don't think it's called like this in English, but in German we use the term A language and B language and C language. And the A language, it's actually the language you really know, and the B language is the language you know a lot. And I would say German is my only A language. It's the only language by now I really know what I'm doing in, or like, I know how German is supposed to sound like, I know the connotations, I know the pop culture, I know what a sentence means also in the political context, at least I hope so. But for example, with Russian, which is my native language and my first, was it still my first language, but because I haven't spent the last 15 years in Russia, it's like usually I don't know what the jokes are about. And I missed a lot of also, because Russian changed so much. There's such a big amount of vocabulary I actually have to, like I don't know it. And I don't know the street language, I don't know anything about the Russian pop culture or about the connotations they're making. And sometimes I understand Tolstoy better than somebody on the street, which is challenging, and also it's quite a big challenge for me even to write an email in Russian. The only thing which saves me is this dictation function on the iPhone. And the problem with English is also that I've never lived in an English-speaking country. It's like sometimes I have the feeling I don't say in English the things I want to say, I just say whatever I can. And so basically it's only German.
Good. Thank you very much.
I have the ability to say what I really want to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And maybe I can ask a final question. We're almost out of time, but I'm curious about just contemporary German literature and how, how immigrants, how refugees to Germany have really influenced the literature there. I mean, I know that there's especially the last 20, 30 years, there's been a pretty rich tradition of German immigrant writers. You fall in that category. What can you sort of talk a little bit about how German literature has changed the past 20, 30 years in terms of who's writing and which stories are being told?
But it's quite at least in Germany, it's quite a complicated topic. There is still this term of migration writer, but I'm very much against it. I don't consider myself a migration writer. I'm considering myself a contemporary German-speaking author. Also because I finished school in Germany in the German language. I finished the German university. I did all the small steps in the German publishing scenes you're supposed to do. I'm teaching creative writing in German.
Right.
And also this term, the way it's used in German, it's not correct. It's just, it's used quite a lot by scholars, but like now the last 10 years, it's also, luckily, they stopped to use it. And also it's a term, migration literature, just say everybody who has a migration background is an immigrant writer, but it's not true.
Right.
Also now, because we have so many immigrants by now in Germany, it's hard, who's left?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. That's great. I mean, that's a very interesting way to end. Well, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. Olga will be signing books. Is that correct? Yes. I don't know exactly what time. I'm sorry. I think it's probably 3:30ish or 3:30. But let's give her a very warm round of applause.
Thank you very much. Thank you.